The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting NORML.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. It is Monday, November 15th, 2010, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us for the next 60 minutes of news, talk, interviews, information, music, comedy, and more by, for, and about the cannabis community. In our first hour today, we are bringing you an interview with Shane Ward, a documentary filmmaker behind the new film Prohibition, A Modern Addiction. I couldn't have said it better myself. We'll talk to him at half past the hour. At 45 past the hour, a little radical ranting, I'm going to give you 30 facts about the new Arizona medical marijuana law. In case you didn't hear, Arizona did pass its medical marijuana law by a little over 4,000 votes after an extended vote count. At 20 after the hour, we've got our regular daily toker tune, some great music for Roots Monday. We're going to go real roots on this one and go back to the days of reefer jazz with Big Swing Face. But before we get to all of that, we've got to introduce my good friend and quarter sister from Astoria, Oregon, Cannabis, Carrie.
Hello. Happy Monday in November.
Happy mid-November day to you, Carrie. I understand your roof is fixed now.
I know. They did such a great job. I won't say the construction company that's been working on the rest of the house because they suck, but the roofers were great.
That's glad to hear that, Carrie. We don't want you getting leaked on throughout this winter. Folks, if you've never been to Astoria, Oregon, or anywhere in the Pacific Northwest during the wintertime, let me give you the weather forecast for the next 5 months. Gray with a chance of wet.
Definitely.
So, Carrie, what's in our headlines for today?
You know, I am actually so excited. I love our news stories today. I just want to say they're all about capers, and I love a good caper.
Okay, not the food capers, but like...
That's right. You know, I almost want you to play that Keystone Cops music through the whole thing, but it'd be too distracting, so don't do it.
Okay, we won't do that. We'll get those hemp headlines right here after our first break. You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation. In our second hour, it's Toker Talk Radio, so you'll get to call in and offer your opinions and comments. And for those of you may have noticed, Ganja John is not with us today. Yes, Ganja John is sick. I do have a photo of John. Apparently, he's curled up and just relaxing. Let me get that photo up for you. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
You want to legalize it? Call your congressman today. 202-224-3121. It's free, it's easy, and you don't even have to give your name, just your zip code, and they'll hook you up to your congressman. Call 202-224-3121 and tell Congress you support marijuana legalization.
Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind. That's what you got to do. Liberate your mind.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
The Omaha police have been investigating their own officers in a marijuana case for over 6 months now, seemingly with no movement in the case. The allegations are that 2 officers had planned to plant marijuana in the trash of a targeted gang member. 6 months ago, the 2 officers were placed on leave while the internal investigation was launched by Omaha police. One of the officers retired from the force 3 months ago. The other officer under investigation has been on leave collecting her salary and not being allowed to work. Between the 2 officers, the city of Omaha has paid them $51,000 in salaries for not working. Now, there are several drug possession cases that have stalled in court while the attorneys wait for reports on the internal affairs investigation. Officer Kara Hindman and her boyfriend, the now retired Frank Platt, a former gang unit officer turned parole officer, had been on paid administrative leave while they are being investigated for planning to plant the marijuana. Platt's former partner, Steve Colt, alleged that he overheard Platt talking on the phone with Hinman about planting a small amount of pot in the trash can of a gang member. Then he says his partner asked him to stow away a small amount of marijuana from a traffic stop or a confidential informant. Police often do trash pulls trying to find drug residue in people's garbage to establish probable cause to search a home. The police officers were immediately pulled from duty on suspicion back in May, and attorneys and other police wonder why the police leaders didn't conduct a surveillance of the officers to see if they would have actually followed through with their purported plan. Now it is one officer's word against 2 other officers, delaying the outcome of the case. Omaha Police Chief Alex Hayes, although he will not comment on the ongoing case, says that he has a moral duty to stop any kind of impropriety and that he would be remiss to let something go on that he knew was wrong. Police spokesman Lieutenant Darcy Tierney said that investigations take time for them to be thorough and objective. Now, for her part, Officer Hinman was cooperating and maintained that she has done nothing wrong and is eager to return to duty. Platt, who is 39, applied for a service-related disability pension for post-traumatic stress disorder related to shooting 3 men and killing 2 during his career. He was awarded the disability and allowed to retire. He also maintains he did nothing wrong in the case. Douglas County Attorney Don Klein will decide whether charges will be filed, but so far he has said he has not received any police reports on the matter.
Yeah, see, we weren't doing anything wrong. See, those guys were bad guys. And since they were bad guys, we have all the reason in the world to plant evidence in their garbage cans in an attempt to bust them for something worse. Because, the end justify the means. They were just bad guys. And, well, we're cops. We're the good guys. So, you got to trust us. That's what they're expecting us to accept here. This notion that the cops can act as judge, jury, and prosecutor, and as well as cop here in these situations. And it just goes to show how much we have lost with our civil liberties with respect to the war on certain American citizens using non-pharmaceutical, non-alcoholic, tobacco-free drugs. I mean, for one thing, the searching of the garbage. This is something that's gone through a couple of Supreme Court cases to decide that, yes, once you put your garbage out on the curb, the cops can then search it to determine whether or not you are engaged in some sort of illegal activity. And what they find in that search can then be used to generate a search warrant to get into your house to verify whether or not indeed that activity is taking place. Well, we got the cops in this situation using the garbage sneak and peeks, to plant evidence in the garbage so that they can go and get the warrant to go after the criminals. And this wouldn't necessarily have to just be cops that would be doing this to you. My goodness, you might have a neighbor who doesn't like your marijuana grow, or a neighbor that just doesn't like you in general. Maybe you got some sort of tiff going on, and they could plant something illegal in your garbage. Call the cops on an anonymous tip. Next thing you know, the cops got a search warrant and they're breaking through your house. These are the kind of sacrifices we've seen in our civil liberties because of the war on drugs. And when we do these stories about Mexico and the corruption of the police in Mexico, we always hear from some official who refuses to go on the record, who makes the point that in order for the drug trade to continue the way it's continuing on both sides of the border, there has to be this kind of corruption on both sides of the border. We hear all sorts of corruption in Mexico and these officials being bribed and so forth, but you rarely hear about it here in the United States. We need more stories like this to get the truth out there so people can realize how much the war on drugs doesn't just affect us, but also affects our system of justice.
3 U.S. soldiers were arrested in Colorado this weekend after trying to break into a medical marijuana dispensary. The 3 men were all soldiers stationed at Fort Carson Military Base. They were captured on security cameras dressed in dark outfits and ski masks. Darius Thomas, 23, Corey Young, 22, and Ramon Halling, also 22, were arrested on suspicion of second-degree burglary early Saturday morning. The 3 men, all brandishing crowbars, are shown on camera after they forced the facility's back door open about 2 a.m. Once inside, the door closed and locked, trapping them inside, and the Rocky Road Remedies dispensary in Colorado Springs had the men trapped. The camera footage shows them pacing and panicking as they searched for a way out of the building. An alarm alerted nearby police, who showed up on the scene only to find the burglars had disabled the door lock so badly the officers couldn't get in either. The front of the building has reinforced iron bars so the men could not force their way out. Sergeant Mark DeVorce of the Colorado Police said the men were all cooperative, and Renz Waddington, who owns the Rocky Road Remedies dispensary, said that they would not have been able to steal any marijuana even if they had found a way to exit the building. All of the medical marijuana and medical marijuana products are locked in a large secure safe every night. The active duty soldiers are being held on $10,000 bond each, and Waddington says that he feels no ill will towards the military after the incident, saying it surely is an isolated incident. He says he is grateful, though, that he has spent the money on a security system with cameras.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so, think ahead, folks. Medical marijuana dispensaries, they pretty much, most of them these days, have realized what a treasure trove they've got inside, and they have all sorts of great security systems. I mean, these guys, man, you got to feel for them. On the bright side, here we are in a building full of marijuana. On the downside, we can't get at any of it, and we can't get out. So... Oh, I love these kind of stories. Folks, but again, if these guys had someplace where they could go and buy their marijuana, maybe we wouldn't have to worry about so many of these break-ins. Plus, we could get the price of marijuana down to the point where it wouldn't be worth stealing in the first place. That's why we continue to fight for legalization.
Cannabis activists in New Zealand staged a protest in Wellington that ended when a group of protesters invaded the police station with a large cart full of burning marijuana. The group had been demonstrating on Parliament grounds earlier last Thursday by smoking marijuana openly in front of police and security as part of an ongoing campaign of civil disobedience. The crowd began shouting and cheering when one of the organizers declared a war on the country's drug laws. One activist said the police had declared war on them, so they were declaring war on the police. As the cart full of marijuana was burning in the police station, the police rushed in with fire extinguishers and handcuffs while the crowd shouted, "Free the weed! Free the weed." With news cameras rolling, Dr. Green called for an armistice tour and has been crossing the country in a large green bus trying to convince marijuana users to live like it's legal to force their country's laws. Green, who helped organize the protest on Thursday, has been leading an effort to legalize marijuana in New Zealand and also trying to convince police to allow sports fans to smoke marijuana during the Rugby World Cup held next year. New Zealanders have an unfortunate history of violence when it comes to to losing rugby matches, and locals say it is due to the large amounts of alcohol being consumed during the game. The marijuana campaigner suggests that allowing fans to smoke marijuana instead would be safer. The Aotearoa Legalized Cannabis Party is calling for an amnesty for all personal cannabis use during the Rugby World Cup. Quote, in light of recent alcohol-fueled violence at football games and the fact that an amnesty succeeded in Spain during the Soccer World Cup, we see no reason why a similar program couldn't succeed here. That is according to their website. Green later delivered an armistice agreement bearing the signatures of 4,500 people to the New Zealand police. For their part, the police have vowed to handle the protesters peacefully as possible to avoid the violence that erupted over a marijuana protest with police back in 2006. They said the protests were well organized and protesters that numbered around 100 obeyed all the instructions from the police. No arrests have been made yet over the incident. Now, the shopping cart full of burning marijuana was caught on camera, and the police are weighing their options of pressing charges against some of the protesters. For his point, Justice Minister Simon Power said he would not be heeding the protesters' demands for a cannabis amnesty during the Rugby World Cup next year.
Well, we just did a story on the rugby guy who got banned for life, not only for playing, but from working or being a part of a club, for life for his cannabis failure. So I can see why they might not want to have that ambiguity by having the fans being able to smoke marijuana during the Rugby Cup. But Carrie, folks in the chat room are saying that one saying from the New Zealand guys, live like it's legal. That's a pretty cool saying. They're wondering if they're selling any T-shirts with that on it.
I don't know, but I will put a link up in the website when we cover the story a little bit later today, because to at least show you their website. Maybe they would be love to send us some shirts and make some money for their cause.
Oh, yeah, that's a great saying. Live like it's legal.
Dr. Green is actually a longtime activist, and he is sort of a hippie, and he drives around New Zealand on this big green bus called, I think it's the Mary Jane Canna bus, and he's been a longtime activist in front of the cameras typically when these things happen.
Well, New Zealand's, quite the country as far as marijuana culture and use goes. It's right up there with the United States. I forget if we're first and they're second, or they're first and we're second, as far as the percentage of the population that use cannabis annually. And as far as international NORML chapters go, they are the bomb. The New Zealand NORML chapter down there, Chris Fowley runs it. They're always getting great press, doing great activities to try to help end marijuana prohibition down there in New Zealand. So good luck to them. Good luck to Dr. Green, and maybe we can get some of those shirts. I have a couple of updates on the political front here that we need to get to. Of course, as implied by the earlier introductions, Arizona's Prop 203 has been declared the winner by 50.13% of the votes. They won by about a little over 4,000 votes, and so Arizona now becomes the 15th state with a medical marijuana law in the United States. Just about all of the West, except for the Intermountain West, our home state of Idaho, as well as Utah and Wyoming, still don't have medical marijuana. At the end of today's show, 45 after in the Radical Rant, I'll be giving you a look at 30 facts about the new Arizona medical marijuana law, so you can learn all about that. Also in political news, Kamala Harris has pulled ahead this weekend of Steve Cooley for California's Attorney General, and that is fantastic news for all of the folks in California and their Prop 215 rights. As you know, Steve Cooley was the district attorney from Los Angeles who was very against medical marijuana and felt like anybody that sold medical marijuana should be locked up in a jail cell. He is losing now by 14,043 votes. So good news there for California. As we had reported previously, Steve Cooley had said, quote, the vast majority, about 100% of dispensaries in Los Angeles County and the city are operating illegally. They are dealing marijuana illegally. The time is right to deal with this problem, end quote. By contrast, San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Harris has previously voiced strong support for protecting the legal rights of patients who use cannabis medicinally. So by 14,043 votes, out of over 8 million votes cast, it does look like Kamala Harris will be the next Attorney General for the state of California. Good news for everyone in the state that wants to see their Prop 215 rights secured and wants to see the continuation of the collectives and nonprofit dispensary systems that they have going in the state of, maybe they're not nonprofit, I'm sorry, the dispensary systems, that they have in the state of California. And it's important that we continue as we move forward looking at other races and other elections, that we pay attention to more than just the marijuana measures, but also a lot of the politicians that are on the ballot. You can learn more about your politicians and what they think about marijuana by visiting stash.normal.org. Look on the right side for our link to Politicians on Pot. Anytime anyone gets an email from a politician about marijuana, we ask that you send it in to us at stash@normal.org. We archive it in the Politicians on Pot database so everyone else can learn what they think. All right, folks, time to take a break. When we come back, your Daily Toker Tunes for 420, out there on the East Coast at least. A little bit of Roots Monday music coming up right after this.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would say to South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
76% of Americans no longer support arresting and jailing marijuana smokers, and nearly as many support the medical patients having access to medical marijuana. And over 80% of our citizens now believe the war on drugs is an ineffective failure. So the question is, when will the government's misguided war on adult marijuana smokers finally end? When? Simple. When you and your like-minded friends, family, and coworkers get involved with an organization such as the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. My name is Keith Stropp, and I founded the organization in 1970. Contact us at NORML, toll free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's up-to-date webpage at www.normal.org.
It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Roots Monday, our celebration of the music that evolved into the popular modern music of today. We pick the best of blues, country, folk, and jazz with a 420 feel and serve it up for you every Monday. Brought to you by Cannabis Carry in Astoria, Oregon, and CannabisFantastic.com. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@normal.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everyone. Roots Monday is normally the province of our own Cannabis Carry, but I've got the song for today, so Carrie, you don't mind if I read the intro, do you?
Oh, not at all.
Oh, thank you so much. Here we go. Big Swing Face. Love the name of this band. Big Swing Face is a musical project of saxophonist Ben Vinci. Starting at age of 3 years old, Ben had an interest in music. He took a special interest in the saxophone from listening to his father's collection of jazz albums, but his teachers recommend that he start out on clarinet. That's where I started, clarinet. Anyway, after playing the clarinet for a couple of years, he finally took up the alto sax. Nowadays, Ben continues to play alto sax and clarinet, as well as 11 other woodwind instruments. Now, Ben is a founding member of the band Big Swing Face. Besides playing gigs with the band, he performs at various private parties, clubs, and concerts as a solo artist. Plus, he arranges and composes music, teaches music in local schools at all levels, including college. His overall goal is to simply share his music and talents with others, whether it be through performing, writing, or teaching. Today's track, Hit That Jive Jack, features a great female vocalist whose credit I cannot find, unfortunately. The term jive dates back to the jazz era of the 1940s and is one of the terms like muggles or gauge that the vipers of the era used as code for marijuana with an H. Enjoy this modern tribute to classic reefer jazz. This is Big Swing Face with Hit That Jive Jack.
Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Going downtown to see a man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Time and time waits for no man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Standing on the corner, all full of jive, but you know that you're my boy, so I'm supposed to give you 5. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Going downtown to see a man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Going downtown to see a man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Time and time waits for no man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Standing on the corner, all full of jive, but you know that you're my boy, so I'm supposed to give you 5. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Going downtown to see a man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Shake your hand. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Time and time waits for no man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Standing on the corner, all full of jive, but you know that you're my boy, so I'm forced to give you 5. Hit that jive jack, put it in your pocket till I get back. Going downtown to see a man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand.
You want a copy of that song for your iPod? Check out the Daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.normal.org and choosing Media and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
It only comes twice a day, but I don't care. It's 4:20 somewhere.
All right, welcome back. It's 28 after the hour, time for Normal's Canada's Community Calendar, which you can find at normal.org/calendar. First of all, tonight, Monday, November 15th, nothing listed on the calendar, so take it easy and enjoy Monday Night Football. On Tuesday, November 16th, there's a weekly medicating event at the Phoenix Cafe in Hazel Park, Michigan. Music, medication, and art with a $7 cover. There's also Greater Torch Lake Area Compassion Club meeting at Alden Library in Alden, Michigan. This is available from 4 to 6 p.m. local time. And Hemp TV is on the air in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Call 505-880-0666 for tickets to the show. On Wednesday, November 17th, Benzie County Normal in Benzonia, Michigan is having their meeting. They always meet on the third Wednesday of the month for a potluck dinner and a movie. Call Reverend Steve at 231-882-4496 for further information. Grand Traverse Compassion Connection meetings taking place in Traverse City, Michigan. Check out gtcompassionconnection.org. That'll be on Wednesday from 4 to 5:30. And Tulsa Normal is having their meeting at the Hardesty Regional Library in Tulsa, Oklahoma to lessen penalties for for responsible adult cannabis consumers and save taxpayers money by allowing police to focus on more violent and serious crimes. The Tulsa NORML meeting, Hardesty Regional Library, this Wednesday. On Thursday, November 18th, Schoolcraft County NORML's having their meeting at Hypnotic Hydroponics, 321 Deer Street in Manistee, Michigan. It's their monthly NORML chapter meeting. For more information on all of these events, including the maps, dates, times, email addresses, contact phone numbers, and more, check out NORML's Cannabis Community Calendar at norml.org/calendar.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
Hello, this is Webb Hubble. Life insurance is now available for responsible marijuana smokers. For years, responsible marijuana smokers have not been able to access affordable life insurance products. NORML uniquely supports cannabis consumers. 2 carriers have already agreed to offer all of their traditional life insurance products at all levels without excluding individuals who smoke marijuana responsibly. Help NORML and help yourself. If you've been declined for life insurance, are paying above market premiums, or simply want to know what now may be available in the way of insurance for marijuana smokers, contact me at info@mclaughlinonline.com or simply call me at 202-293-5566.
The most devastating effect of the war on marijuana is that it is a war on everyday people like you and me. All week, we speak to the doctors, scientists, celebrities, and politicians who make up the professionals fighting for cannabis liberty. But we never forget about the tens of millions who use cannabis, the millions who need medical access to cannabis, and the hundreds of thousands arrested every year for cannabis, and the tens of thousands imprisoned under our marijuana laws. At NORML, we are the Cannabis Consumers Lobby, and we take this opportunity to share the experience of our cannabis community.
Welcome back, everyone. 32 after the hour, and joining us via Skype all the way from London in the United Kingdom is Shane Ward, the director and producer of a new documentary film called Prohibition, A Modern Addiction. Shane, welcome to NORML Show Live.
Thanks very much, Russ. Nice to be here. How are you?
Doing good, and I know it's late out there in London, so I thank you for joining us on the live portion of the show. I love the title of your movie, Prohibition, A Modern Addiction. That's something I have said many times over, is that our law enforcers and politicians are addicted to the easy money and easy votes of prohibition. What is the basic theme of your movie, and how do you examine that modern addiction?
Well, a very good question. I think the really quick way to mention what it's about really is it's meant to be a theatrical, a cinematic feature-length documentary film. And I guess the approach is to really chart a course through this, highly charged, surprising, often controversial, and I guess, occasionally bizarre effort that is the global war on drugs. It's the first film of its kind, really, to try and examine this from a truly global perspective. So, not just looking at obviously the US side of it or the UK or any one country, but actually see how as a global system it all ties together, because, we have to remember that, it's all sort of held together at the UN level, and every single country in the world is essentially signed up to make drugs, including marijuana, illegal. So I guess really the film is about trying to provide people with an understanding of how it all came about, how it all ties together, and give people maybe a sense of just how perverse and far-reaching it is, because not a lot of people, I think, probably realise that. And so we want to go all around the world and show people the effects of fighting drugs. Really try not to.
I think you've got a really good point there with regard to the global reach of drug prohibition. Again, we're speaking with Shane Ward from the film Prohibition, A Modern Addiction. And what are some things that folks listening to our show here in the United States who follow this issue, specifically with regards to marijuana, what are some things that we don't know in the United States about how our drug policies affect the world?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, obviously everyone has a slightly different level of knowledge, but I mean, I think generally, you know, a lot of the problems that the richer Western countries like the United States, United Kingdom and others, they have mainly problems to do with use and the problems that come around use, you know, maybe being arrested, that sort of stuff. What a lot of people don't see so much is the fact that we as richer Western countries tend to export a lot of the problems of supply. Mm-hmm. Some of the worst harms of the whole drug trade are exported to other countries. I mean, in case in point, you know, in the United States, obviously a lot of the narcotics, including marijuana, that flows in comes from through Mexico. Mm-hmm. In some cases from Mexico, but often other Latin American countries like Colombia. And as I'm sure more and more people are becoming aware now, you see it in the news, you know, 28,000 people have been killed just in the last 4 years. That's a staggering number of people. That's twice the amount of the entire Afghanistan conflict, which has been running for, you know, almost 3 times as long. That's a really obvious one. Some of the things that people might not know about, I mean, in Colombia right now, there's a huge internal displacement problem. Over 4.2 million people, I think it is, who have been, you know, kicked out of their homes, off their land, essentially. That's, you know, it's tied to other things as well, but it's clearly fueled by and made worse by US counter-narcotics policy. You know, it's this effect of trying to fight a war on drugs and taking it to Colombia and essentially trying to stamp it out from the supply side when, you know, most of the problem is essentially demand for drugs.
You know, you mentioned Mexico as being, you know, that's a primary concern to us here in the United States. We have a lot of stories that refer to the violence in Juarez or Tijuana, all these different cartels that are involved. And, of course, you know, Afghanistan's another issue where we talk about the heroin there and the use of the drug proceeds by the Taliban and so forth. In what way is prohibition, at least as you've found in your research and filming of this new documentary, in what ways are prohibition not only enriching our enemies, as we might define them as terrorists or gangsters, but also enriching our governments? Did you find incidents of corruption and bribery and such?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the main things to point out is that this film isn't going after individuals. So let's, you know, I'm not trying to expose individuals to, you know, for their corruption necessarily. I'm looking at it more systemically than that. But what I have found is, I mean, and you certainly find this in the US probably on a bigger scale than anywhere else in the world, is that there's, I mean, vast sums of money tied up in fighting this. I mean, we're talking government budgets for the various departments that are obviously involved in it, most notably the DEA, but there are many others. There's a huge prison system, privatized prison system. There's lots and lots of jobs. I saw some fantastic statistics today. Unfortunately, I'm not going to quote them because I can't remember them exactly off the top of my head. I don't want to be inaccurate, but there was staggering sums of money, lots and lots of jobs, and I suspect that's probably one of the reasons that Prop 19 didn't do as well as we'd hoped, because there's a very, very strong lobbies. There's a lot of people who realise there's lots of money and lots of jobs at stake in keeping this thing going, despite the costs, obviously, on people's lives, many of whom are not in the United States, but we don't see those people. So I guess we're not as aware of them.
Yeah. You know, I often point out that if we saw the level of violence and kidnapping and beheadings and tortures that we get in Juarez, if that was happening in Indianapolis, this would be an entirely different conversation. We're speaking with Shane Ward. He's a documentary filmmaker, director, producer of the new documentary Prohibition, A Modern Addiction. Let's talk about the film itself. If folks are interested in finding out more about the film, helping it to get distributed in their area, do you have websites or other contact information they should know?
I do, actually, yes. They can take a look firstly at my website, which I'm not sure if you'll be providing a link afterwards or not, but if not, they can always write down www.fullangel.com. That's my website. They can find lots of information about the film there, including a crowdfunding appeal, which has been launched just last week to try and help move the project forwards a little bit. And The idea being that if I can raise a little bit of money, we'll be able to go and start shooting some more footage. Because we're really at the very sort of early stages of this project. I have been to Colombia myself on a research trip last year out of my own pocket, and that was a real eye-opener, I can tell you. But we're really looking to go back and start filming in earnest in places like Colombia and other parts of Latin America, maybe even the US if we raise enough money, among other places around the world. So, I'd love it if people would go and take a look at the website, and I'm on the other side of it. So if people would have any questions or anything that they'd like to know, they can always get in touch with me.
Okay, everyone, make sure to check out foolangel.com, Fool Angel, ANGEL.com. You get more information on the film there. And as you mentioned going to Colombia and your research for this movie. How much, as you're looking at the addiction of prohibition here, are you going to be looking at any ways to cure that addiction, to detox our Western governments from the idea of criminalizing drugs? Do you, for example, take a look at what they've done in Portugal with decrim and so on?
Very much so. In fact, I see this film as hopefully being the first step, shall we say. If there's going to be 12 steps, I'm not sure what they all are, but the first step I hope is going to be the film to try and wean governments off it. I'm not sure about the US because I don't know all the politicians that well, who all the players are as well as you do probably. But I certainly know that in other countries like the UK here, a lot of politicians know that it doesn't work. I mean, anyone who's ever spent more than 10 minutes looking at it probably knows. I mean, it's achieved absolutely nothing except negative consequences and harms to people across the world. So it's really a no-no to say that it doesn't work. It hasn't achieved a single one of its objectives ever. So, but the problem, so you have to ask the question, well, why does it continue? If it doesn't work, it measurably doesn't work, and it only causes more harm than good, why do we persist? Well, the main reason, I think, is because it's political suicide, really, for any politician to sort of step out away from the flock and say, hey, guys, why don't we look at an evidence-based drug policy?
We saw. Sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, in your own neck of the woods, there we saw that exact problem when the UK drugs advisor David Nutt, who was well respected, when he was sacked from his position for daring to mention that ecstasy was safer than horse riding. So, do you see that it's going to be? It sounds like people are making these statements. They're saying that it doesn't work and that we need to change. Is it just going to have to be a preponderance of us, continuing to say it, or is there something yet unsaid that's going to get these people to change their minds?
Well, I think that it's not so much about what we say, it's about how many people are saying it. And this is why I think making a film is so important. The reason why I wanted to do this, apart from being a filmmaker, obviously, is that I feel that the politicians are too afraid to come out of the closet on this. Well, why? Because it's too easy for their opponents to shoot them down in a soundbite. I think if I make a film about this, more and more people will understand the issue, and the scare tactics just won't work anymore. A little bit like the sort of climate change movement was a few years ago. There was a lot of people that were sort of sitting on the fence. They weren't sure, but it all sort of crystallized. It became a movement when the masses were brought up to a certain level of education about it, and that's the tipping point, if you see what I mean. And I think that that's the same thing with the drug war. As soon as there are votes in a politician saying, you know what, let's look at this again, let's have a public debate. It's the day that there's votes to be won in doing that, that's when we'll see a change. But until then, I think it's just going to be more of the same.
Very good points. Shane Ward, documentary filmmaker behind Prohibition, A Modern Addiction. Check out the website foolangel.com. We can work together to help get this movie made, get it distributed, and get the information out to the people that need to see it. Before we let you go, Shane, anything else you'd like to tell us about the movie, your upcoming work, or ways people can get in touch with you?
Well, I'd just like to say, thanks, Russ, that I'd really appreciate any and all help people can lend. This is a film I think that's very important. I'm sure a lot of you out there agree. And, to be honest with you, we can't do it alone. It's a big topic. We've got a lot to do, but I think it can be a really fantastic film that can really sort of change hearts and minds. So if you could just take a little bit of time to visit the website, and maybe take a look at our crowdfunding appeal and spread the word around, that'd be fantastic, because the more that know about this, the better.
Excellent. And one of our listeners live in the chat room right now is saying that you are half French, half Australian. Is that true?
It's true. It's a bit complicated, but yeah, the long and short of it is, yes, half French, half Australian, born in the UK, raised in Australia.
Oh, excellent. Well, and also he wanted to know, will there be a French version of the movie?
There will. We're going to get it translated into as many languages as we can afford to.
Oh, that's so excellent. Well, I encourage everyone to check out foolangel.com. Help get this documentary, Prohibition of Modern Addiction, fully funded. Let's get it in all the languages we can. Shane Ward, thanks so much for joining us here on Normal Show Live.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time, Russ.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after a word from these 420 friendly sponsors. Wait a minute. This is Internet Radio. There are no dials here.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times Magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
All right, welcome back, everyone. And, of course, we delivered the good news earlier in today's show about Arizona's medical marijuana law passing by about 4,000 votes, a little over 4,000 votes, managed to get that passed. 50.13%. Wow. Glad you guys pulled that off. So the medical marijuana map has been updated at NORML.org. We have shaded in Arizona in the bright green representing medical. So that's really cool. I wanted to go ahead and give you a look at this new law, the Arizona medical marijuana law, because there's a lot of good in it and there's some things that are a little sketchy. But overall, I think this is a tremendous victory for patients in Arizona and for the movement in general. So I've got 30 facts for you here. We'll go through them real quick. 30 facts about the Arizona new medical marijuana law. Number 1, the allowable amount of marijuana for patients and caregivers is 2.5 ounces. 2.5 ounces, that's a little low, but that's okay. 2.5 is better than 0. Right? Number 2, if a patient or caregiver is allowed to cultivate, the limit is 12 plants that must be grown in an enclosed, locked facility defined as a closet, room, greenhouse, or other enclosed area, which to me sounds as if there'll be no outdoor marijuana growing. Yeah. Oh, well, enclosed, locked facility, though, that's the definitions. Number 3, the qualifying conditions include cancer, glaucoma, HIV/AIDS, hepatitis C, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, Crohn's disease, Alzheimer's agitation, cachexia or wasting syndromes, severe and chronic pain. Interesting to see if severe and chronic will, cause any complications there. Severe nausea, seizures, seizure disorders like epilepsy, and severe and persistent spasms like multiple sclerosis. So these are pretty standard. This is pretty much what most of the medical marijuana states have as qualifying conditions. Number 4, caregivers must be 21 years old and pass criminal background check for certain felonies, which include violent crimes, drug trafficking felonies, and the such. Number 5, caregivers can serve no more than 5 patients and must keep a card for each one. So that'll be interesting. You have to have 5 cards on you at all times. Caregivers may receive reimbursement for actual expenses, not labor, from their own patients only. So unlike the Oregon law where if I'm a patient and I meet a caregiver somewhere, I can reimburse that caregiver. No. In Arizona, it has to be your specific caregiver is the only person that you can reimburse. Number 7. This is the one that frightens me a little bit. Number 7 says, patients and caregivers' medical marijuana cards last for a year and will contain their photo, name, address, birth date, and an indication whether medical marijuana is allowed to be cultivated at home. Now, number 12, a little farther down, says any patient who lives within 25 miles of a dispensary may not cultivate their own medical marijuana. So that means the only people who will be allowed to grow at home are people who live out in the sticks, out in the rural areas. So they have to carry around a card with their name, photo, address, and an indication that they're growing marijuana at home out there in the rural country in the sticks where it takes a long time for 911 to respond. I don't think that's a very good idea. That sounds to me like if a patient loses their wallet, they're looking for a home invasion in the next week or so. But that's what we have under the law here. Point number 8. If the state has not issued a card within 45 days, a copy of the application shall have the same force as the card. So in Oregon, when you turn in your paperwork, the minute you turn it in, you're legal, right? And a copy of that paperwork makes you legal. Not in Arizona. You'll have to turn it in, and then after 45 days, a month and a half, if they haven't gotten you a card, then your paperwork makes you legal. Number 9, patients and caregivers must submit fingerprints to law enforcement and sign a statement that they will not divert marijuana to non-patients. So that could be if they catch you diverting to someone else sometime, they could use that statement that you signed, a legal document that you signed as an affidavit. You wouldn't do that. Might be another way to get you in more trouble. Let's see here. Number 10, patients and caregivers may share marijuana with other patients for free, as long as they don't knowingly cause the patient to exceed 2.5 ounces. So you can give marijuana, you cannot sell marijuana to other patients. You cannot even take reimbursements. Remember, the only person that can be reimbursed for expenses is a patient's own caregiver. So you can't reimburse another patient, only for free. And they don't knowingly cause the patient to exceed 2.5 ounces. So if you knew that person, the patient just went and got their 2.5 ounces of the dispensary and you gave them some more marijuana, if you knew they already had 2.5, you'd be busted for giving them too much. Number 11, nonprofit medical marijuana dispensaries are allowed. So yes, there will be dispensaries in the state of Arizona. Up to 124 of them, I believe. However, when it comes to home grow rights, we mentioned this earlier. Number 12, a patient who lives within 25 miles of a dispensary may not cultivate their own medical marijuana. Yeah, I don't know, man. So basically, if you live in a city, you're not going to be able to grow your own, right? Because if you live in the city, that's probably where most of the dispensaries will be. You'll be within 25 miles of one. You can't grow your own. Probably the only people to be allowed to grow their own are the people living out in the rural areas where they're not within 25 miles of a dispensary. Furthermore, I wonder what happens if you live in one of these areas where you can grow and then a dispensary opens up 20 miles away. Once the new dispensary opens up, are you then from that point on forbidden to grow? The way I read it, it looks like that's the case. So if you're in Arizona thinking, I'll go buy some place out in the sticks so that I can grow my own, well, don't buy a place too close to where a city might expand or where a dispensary might open, because your place could be worthless as soon as that new place opens. Number 13, patients and caregivers may not possess medical marijuana on a school bus, at a school, or a correctional facility. All right, that's pretty standard. You'd expect that. Number 14, patients may not smoke marijuana on public transportation or in any public place. Okay, can't smoke your weed on the bus. That makes sense. Now, this is a good one. Number 15, patients may not drive under the influence of marijuana. However, marijuana metabolites alone shall not be proof of impairment. So you have to prove actual impairment by the, and it's not just marijuana metabolites, it's also any concentrations of marijuana too low to reasonably cause impairment. So even if they took the blood test, if your nanograms per milliliter were below, say, 5 or 4 or so, then that wouldn't be enough to cause impairment. They're going to have to come up with some rule making on that one to determine what levels actually determine impairment. We'll have to see. Number 16. Fees for nonprofit dispensaries shall not be greater than $5,000 or $1,000 for a renewal license. Translation: your dispensary fee is going to cost $5,000. They're not going to make it lower than that. You're going to make it as much as they can. So $5,000 for a dispensary license. Number 17. Dispensaries must cultivate their own medical marijuana, which they can do on site or at a separate physical address. Okay, so the dispensary has to grow their own. Now, they don't have to grow it at the dispensary. They can grow it at a separate location, but they have to grow their own. Number 18, patients and caregivers may give marijuana to dispensaries, but not for any compensation. So forget the California situation where you can grow your own and then, sell some to the collective or the dispensary. That's not going to happen. First of all, you'd have to live 25 miles away from the dispensary before you could grow your own. And then if you want to give some to the dispensary, you can only give it. You cannot be paid for it, compensated for it, reimbursed for it, expensed for it in any way. Number 19, neither the dispensary nor the cultivation address may be within 500 feet of a school. Number 20, there can be no more than one dispensary for every 10 pharmacies, except that there can be at least one dispensary in every county. Now, currently there are something like 1,240 pharmacy licenses in Arizona, which means that there could be up to 124 dispensaries in the state. Now, remember, each one of those dispensaries has to grow their own marijuana. They cannot buy it from other dispensaries that are growing their own marijuana, right? Okay. Let's see, where are we? Number 21, the cards or recommendations for visiting patients from other medical marijuana states will be recognized in Arizona, but they may not shop at the dispensaries. This means reciprocity. This means that if you're a medical marijuana state from any of the other 14 medical marijuana states, your card or recommendation will protect you in Arizona. That means there are now 5 states with reciprocity. Arizona, all the M's, Montana, Michigan, and Maine all recognize cards, and Rhode Island. So any one of those 5 states will recognize your card no matter where that card or recommendation comes from. Number 22, patients in assisted care facilities can be limited to non-smoking methods of use and only in certain areas. So they could force you, if you're in the nursing home, they could force you to use a vaporizer, force you to use cookies or tinctures or whatever. They can legislate that you do not smoke it. However, the facilities don't have to enact any limitations. It's just saying if they do have the right to limit you to non-smoking and limit you to using it only in certain areas. Number 23, dispensaries must have a single secure entrance, a strong security system, and no medicating is allowed on the premises, so there will be no cannabis cafes or coffee shops in Arizona. Number 24, now this is interesting. Number 24, dispensaries must track patients' acquisitions to ensure they receive no more than 2.5 ounces from any dispensaries within a 14-day period. Now, this is going to require computer databases, folks. Computer databases tracking how much medical marijuana you are acquiring from what dispensary you are acquiring it. And this moves on to number 25. There shall be a secure web-based confirmation system accessible by law enforcement and dispensaries that reveals patients' and caregivers' names, but not their addresses, and how much marijuana the patient received from all dispensaries in the past 60 days. Law enforcement or any dispensary can look that up and find out how much marijuana you have gotten in the past 60 days. Number 26. Non-patients cannot be punished for being in the vicinity of lawful medical marijuana use by patients or by providing paraphernalia to patients. So it's okay if you're a non-card holder, you'll be able to be around people that use medical marijuana, or if you sell them a pipe, you'll be okay. Number 27, schools and landlords. This is a good one. Schools and landlords cannot discriminate against medical marijuana patients and caregivers unless they'd be subject to some federal penalty like loss of money or loss of licensing. So that's good news, protecting patients from discrimination. Number 28, employers cannot discriminate against patients and caregivers, and a positive test for marijuana metabolites is not cause for disciplining or terminating a patient. That's right, job protection for medical marijuana patients, and your P test does not count in discriminating you. Number 29, medical facilities and treatments, including organ transplants, cannot be denied to patients because of their medical use. That's right. Cannot kick them off the organ transplant list. And finally, number 30, parental rights of patients cannot be denied solely for their medical marijuana use. You cannot take someone's kids just because they're a medical marijuana patient. I'm Radical Russ. I've got the text of the full measure up at stash.normal.org/AZMedMJ. Stash.normal.org/AZMEDMJ. For Cannabis Carrie and Ganja John, I'm Radical Russ. Stay tuned for Hour 2 if you're listening live. For those on the podcast, thanks for listening. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
You plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you